Earlier today, the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, which I serve as the vice chair, released our annual report, our 2021 report. I moderated the release. 14 countries being recommended as countries of particular concern. That means these are countries that have engaged in ongoing, systematic, egregious forms of religious persecution. Now, 10 of these countries already designated. We're calling for redesignation of Burma, China, Eritrea, Iran, Nigeria, North Korea, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan. Also, adding 4 countries, recommending 4 countries to the State Department: India, Russia, Syria, and Vietnam. But while each of these are measured on their own merits, China rises to the top of the list because what they're doing, which is horrific within their own borders, is actually not staying there. They're exporting a lot of the technology and using their international leverage with other countries. Join me now to talk more about China and we're going to be talking about the new legislation that Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn has introduced. We're going to be joined by her in just a moment. I want to go back while we're waiting to connect with her. The issue of international religious freedom was a top priority from the previous administration. And so the threshold, the bar, I should say, has been set pretty high for the incoming Biden administration. And so the commission kind of waiting for the Biden administration to be able to get people in place on the ground, but hopeful that we'll see a continuation of a focus in our international foreign policy on this issue of religious freedom. Now, there's a secondary list, which is a special watch list that looks at these countries that meet 2 of the 3 criteria. Their violations of religious freedom may not reach the level of all 3 of egregious, systematic, and ongoing, but 2 of the 3 are present. And those countries are also, about 10 of those countries are being recommended. Joining us now to talk more about China is Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. Senator, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Now, I'm sure you don't need to read the USCIRF report to know that China is a bad actor. You have been working on this issue for quite some time.
Indeed. And China is one of the biggest offenders when it comes to religious liberty and freedom. You can look at their record of human rights violations and the genocide that they are carrying out against the Uyghur Muslim population in China. And they're using them as slave labor. And by the way, Tony, they're making products for the NBA, the licensed products for the NBA, MLB. They are, this is all work of the Communist Chinese Party, the CCP. It is taking place in Xinjiang province. These companies that are U.S. companies, whether it's Apple or Nike or any other number of U.S. companies, they are literally in partnership with these Chinese-owned companies that are owned in large part by the Chinese Communist Party, who continues to carry out a genocide against the Uyghur Muslim minority. They are trying to eliminate this population. They use them as slave labor in the factories. We all know about the human rights abuses against the Tibetans and the Inner Mongolians. We're all aware of what the Chinese Communist Party has done to the Hong Kong freedom fighters and how China really went back on their word. And they said, Hong Kong, we're coming and we're going to take you back. And that's what they've done. And now you see policemen, the law enforcement from the Chinese Communist Party goose-stepping through the streets of Hong Kong.
Senator, I'm going to jump ahead of myself here. I'm going to talk about this later with John McLaughlin and Associates, a poll that was just released. But you brought up the issue of the Major League Baseball. And here is a poll. This is of likely voters, representative of the public. This is not slanted conservative or liberal. Here's the question. Please indicate whether you agree or disagree with the following statement. Before Major League Baseball and other corporations boycott Georgia over voter laws, they need to boycott communist China, with whom they hold lucrative business deals and investments with for using slave labor, persecuting Christians and other religions, and prohibiting free and democratic elections. This was not even close. This is among a representation of the American people. 67% agree with that. Only 19% disagree. Clearly, the American public is not on the side of major sports, Major League Baseball or basketball, but rather with the persecuted minorities in China.
You're precisely correct about this. I had someone stop me in the grocery store recently, and they were so frustrated with COVID-19, which, by the way, originated in Wuhan, China, and what that had done to interrupt the junior and senior years of her children. And she said, you know, I look now at where everything is made, and I'm a careful shopper because I do not want to support entities that are going to cozy up to the communist Chinese. And she said, you know, I've started looking at what the Chinese Communist Party is trying to do. They want to dominate us. This would ruin my children's lives. And I just really appreciated her awareness and the fact that she was keeping up with what was happening with current events, and how shocked she was to see these companies be so outspoken about things they disagree with in the United States, the land of the free, the home of the brave. And yet they are using the fact that they are a U.S.-based company operating with free people in a free market system, and they're manufacturing these products in China. And because they are working with these Chinese companies, then whether it's a manufacturing company or China TV or Tencent, any of these companies, they are using one set of standards in dealing with China and a different set of standards in the United States.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And to your constituent there, she's not alone. More and more people are exercising their voice with the dollars that they spend, and that's extremely important because we can all play a part in this. I want to shift gears a little bit, significantly. I want to come back to a domestic issue, although there's certainly a tie because, you know, we've seen the forced abortions in China. We've seen what they've done and how they are now facing a demographic winter that's just around the corner for them. But I want to come back to the United States, and you're introducing legislation that addresses really the dark side, and there's a lot of darkness in the abortion industry, but they're cloaking in keeping information from women as it pertains to abortion. And you are the sponsor of the Women's Right to Know Act. Explain that to our listeners.
Yeah, you know, Tony, it's so interesting to me. Any medical procedure that you go in for, you are given a list of what will be the effects, what will take place with the procedure, the side effects that you could experience. You are given just so much information. I had a family member recently have an outpatient procedure, and there was like an inch-high stack of paper that went with the procedure and the follow-up and the medication. And, you know, what we see is while that is done for medical procedures in the abortion industry, they do not want to provide that information for informed consent. And women should be given all the information. What is the procedure? What are the side effects? What could possibly go wrong? What will I experience physically, mentally, emotionally? What is the expectation? That is how people are able to make informed consent. But when it comes to abortion, it is like hands off. Keep it a secret. Don't give women the information. Just when they say they want to have an abortion, all right, have an abortion. And how many times have we talked to women who are post-abortive women who have said, if I had known then what I know now, I would have made a different decision. And then they go on and they talk about regrets. They talk about physical pain. I've talked to women who were never able to have a child after having an abortion. There are just, these are really very difficult conversations to hear. And they are just so heartbreaking. And, you know, sometimes when you sit and you just put your arms around a woman that has been through this with deep regret, you know that it would be a good thing to make certain that women know what they're going to face.
Absolutely.
It's a way to protect women and unborn children.
And we're going to encourage people to get behind that legislation that you're introducing. We're going to have a link to it at our website, tonyperkins.com. Senator Marsha Blackburn, thanks for joining us, and thanks for leading out on these important issues.
You got it. Thank you so much, Tony. I appreciate it.